All right, friends. We had the pleasure and privilege of a lot of good guests, a lot of quality guests over 51 episodes of the Spicer Speaking podcast. But from time to time, we take it up a notch, move up the totem to the legendary status. And with that hefty preface, this week it is really a great pleasure to welcome World Golf Hall of Famer, LPGA Hall of Famer as well, author of 29 LPGA Tour wins, 5 majors among them, and certainly 3 of those right here in our desert proper at what is now the Chevron Championship, SoCal Zone. Amy Alcott joins the Spicer Speaking podcast. Amy, so appreciative of your time.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you, Judd.
Start with this one. I'm going to harken back to October of 21 when the news broke that this major championship, the desert event, that this would be the last go around. If you could use one word to describe your reaction or your emotion upon hearing that news, what might that word be?
One word.
Fear not, we'll use many more words as we continue,
Wow.
but
It's a wow. It's bittersweet. I think Chevron will be a great sponsor for the LPGA. They're talk about lifting it up a notch. We're, going into this spicy salt here. But a couple of BAMs on that. But I think it's great for the LPGA. It's showcasing the event, with more money, more panache that it's had in the last few years. I think is great. The fact that they're moving it to Houston, it's very bittersweet with my long history there and being a Southern California resident and everything else that's happened there at Mission Hills for me. It's kind of bittersweet. So just mixed emotions, but in the main, I'd say I'm very happy.
really, that ultimately you are happy with this. I understand.
I think things change. I think things change and you have to adapt with the change. And, the tournament has had a tremendously long history going back to David Foster and Colgate and what he did with Dinah Shore, creating this event that was actually a novelty then, but very forward thinking, putting women's golf on the map, putting women in commercials. I mean, the Dinah Shore, the Colgate Dinah Shore, as it will forever be called, was the precursor to, people actually putting money into women's golf, other companies. So, then Kraft took it over and then A&A and now Chevron. But again, it's sad to see it leave.
You mentioned the word money, and money is obviously a big part of it. I mean, 10 years ago, the total purse was like $2 million, and Chevron has taken it up to like $6 million, which is, pardon me, $5 million total purse, 60% rise from what it was. Not that good with numbers, Amy. But it's a massive rise in purse. Right. Obviously, every tournament, men's or women's, you want a big, powerful domestic sponsor that's going to stand behind your tournament and the TV time that comes with it. For me, it still makes me sad as this tournament is approaching, and obviously my own history is far briefer than how long you've been associated with it and how closely connected you are to the tournament. But it does make me sad. It makes me feel like we here in the desert kind of screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
I just and to go out to the tournament in recent years, it's very true that those Thursdays and Fridays, it's pretty quiet out there. For a major championship,
right.
Just we're not able to put as many butts in the seats. I mean, why do you think that happened from the days when you were winning 3 times, from 83, 88, 91, and doing so in record-setting fashion, to more recent days where it just wasn't as populated out there at the tournament? What happened?
Well, golf tournaments go through these evolutions, and the desert certainly has been a place like that. If you look at the Bob Hope, always be called the Bob Hope, but it's the American Express. And the Chevron will always be the Dinah Shore. And so until somebody, does something, inordinately different, I think there's, in the beginning days, the galleries were enormous. Dinah brought all of her celebrities in. There was top-rated entertainment on Wednesday night at the Pro-Am party. I mean, there's pictures of her with Frank Sinatra. I remember winning and playing golf with Bob Hope and Dinah. I mean, you can't reorchestrate that. And the gallery loved it. For a long time and many years, the gallery, grew in a very big women's population. And by the bucket loads. And so that became a big thing. And I think it just kind of slowly lost, with all the gallery, kind of lost its mojo after Dinah died. I mean, for years, there was a try at bringing Celine Dion in one year by Kraft to try to, garner a little bit more attention. But, events go through these evolutions, and I don't think it's really anybody's fault. I think, Chevron has now come along and plans to do the right thing and do some great things for women. And, maybe another event, hopefully. And I know a lot of people are talking about bringing another event back to Mission Hills. I'm totally on board with that. I don't think it should leave. It's too good a venue. I have the history of diving into the water personally there. And so I'd love to see another tournament back, but I don't think there's any rhyme or reason or answer. I just think these events go through evolution. Like just on the PGA Tour, I've played with people that ran companies in the past, and they're no longer on the PGA Tour. Their events are no longer. So it's the same in women's golf. There's always this evolution of new events, and events kind of, somebody at the head of the company better play golf. That's all I have to say.
You're right about not pointing fingers or blame. I mean, I felt ANA they came here in earnest, and then they upped it a notch by bringing in, I think it was for 3 years, the Women in Sports Conference, which
Yeah.
had everybody from Ashley Judd to Ariana Huffington to a bunch of world-renowned athletes, Lindsey Vonn, a bunch of U.S. women's soccer players. And I thought this could become a real nexus event, a real annual event. And then all of a sudden, like, that was gone. But to me,
Right.
like maybe they kind of recreated a new cornerstone for the event, and then it fizzled fast.
Yeah, and then the pandemic came along, and I'm sure they weren't selling a lot of airline tickets. So I can totally see them, stepping away and allowing another company with bigger visions to step in.
You mentioned that things change and things transition. Something that hasn't really transitioned or hasn't changed, but has only grown, is obviously something you referenced, and you started with your initial leap into what was then the slime and murk of Poppy's Pond, as you did so spontaneously in 1988, and then again, obviously, with Dinah in 91, when it really became an annual tradition, so much so that the most press releases I've received in recent years are about the darn like fibers of the robe that the winner gets for coming out of what is now a very crisp and clean Poppy's Pond.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was doing back in '88 with Bill Curry, my caddy, who sadly this year passed away.
Right.
He was very upset when he found out. I mean, he caddied for me, not just but he at the Craft, but U.S. Open, my U.S. Open win in 1980. He was very upset that the history was going to be leaving there. And on a personal note, I was really sad to lose Bill, and it, It shouldn't have happened, but should never happen. But anyway, we didn't know what we were doing back in 1988, jumping into the water. I mean, I just looked at him and I said, "We're going in the water." And he says, "Okay, kid." We didn't know if it was dirty or rocks or glass or duck excretions. We had no idea, but we just jumped in and we didn't know what created, but he was part of a great team.
I wonder, I mean, I hope that the tradition concludes with this year, that this will be the final leap and it's not something that Chevron tries to take to Texas. It just seems like a tradition that it stays here and I guess ends here. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't, it'll always be, it will always be my pond. So, you know, I do get letters on another note about that. I get about 25 letters a year wondering why the pond does not have my name on it. Who is Poppy? But I just don't go there. I just say it's politics. So like a lot of things, you fight the battles you can fight.
Sure. Um, for the tournament upcoming, I've tried to ask the tournament organizers a few times if there's going to be something special, if there's going to be honorary moments. There really, thus far, has not been anything announced, nothing that I'm aware of. And I've done pretty thorough research. And again, I've kind of peppered the tournament organizers. Are you aware of anything special for the week that you might be able to share?
No, I
Yeah.
don't. I don't know anything special. I'm pleased that the people at Chevron are continuing on my original event, which we will have on Saturday, which is just pretty much a very closed, intimate event with some past champions and junior golfers over on the Palmer course. We're going to do that with just 8 groups on the Saturday of the tournament, starting around 9:30, with myself and Sandra Palmer, Patty Sheehan, Pat Bradley, Donna Capone, Patrice Mounier-Lebuc, Donna Andrews, Hollis Stacy, and some Hall of Famers, just to promote junior golf, which is my passion, and started this back many years ago at the event. Had a different sponsor, and it just kind of, I have big dreams for this event, this particular event continuing on. So they've been really good about that. So I know that there'll be some past champions around.
Friends, you're tuning into episode 51 of the Spicer Speaking podcast. LPGA and World Golf Hall of Famer Amy Alcott is my guest, winner of 5 major championships, 3 chevrons, or whatever you want me to say. It doesn't really roll off the tongue, Amy, but you know what I mean. You won out here 3 times, record-setting fashion, a couple of them. She is my guest. Talked about the past. Let's talk about the present and the future. You mentioned your passions. Among them is the golf design and architectural process. Obviously, you've had a global influence when looking at the Olympic golf course in Rio, but out here in the desert, local and regional SoCal influence, the excellent work you did with Casey O'Callahan at the Indian Canyons South Course, one of my favorites in the desert, private or public. That was your
Fun
first
little course.
project?
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun working with Casey many years back, and just kind of reimagining that course for the Agua Caliente tribe, and on 90 acres, small little piece of land, but I think it's fun, it's playable, which is the most important thing, and beautiful views and open to the public. So I enjoyed having a little bit of influence there.
And as you said, that has been some time, so perhaps I'm bearing the lead in that we do have some super fun, very current news to share. I've told the listeners a time or two about my forays over at Desert Island, played that golf course a lot. Also one of my favorites in the desert for many different reasons, a very unique design to the desert proper. In contrast, corridor wise, can be a lot skinnier than a lot of the resort style courses we see out here. But I love how it plays. Amy Alcott's going to have her hands on that golf course very soon. What would you care to share about this, Amy?
Well, it's not been formally announced, but I guess I will here. I'm going to, let's say, reimagine the Desert Island Country Club. I'm very excited about it. I'm going to be the architect of note. Remodeling the course will start in actually formally doing that in May of 2023 in over about a 4-month period. So we a quick turnaround, but doing some design right now for some particular holes. And, it's a golf course, obviously renowned in the desert, fabulous location. Legendary designer who did Mission Hills, Desmond Muirhead, who lived in Newport Beach, had a very nice flair for what I look at a golf course is the flow of holes. And so I'm going to try to upgrade it. I'm going to try to make it playable and fun and bring it into 2022 and its kind of style and character. So very flattered that the new owner has chosen me and will give me a shot at doing something special there.
Well, that is a project, an opportunity, and a story certainly want to stay close to in both my writing endeavors and in these chats as well. Amy, anything specific you can share about a hole or two personally? And I know some listeners also very familiar with that golf course. If there's anything you want to detail in particular, I'd be curious to hear.
Well, I can't detail too much, but there will be 4 or 5 holes that are totally kind of redone, reimagined. The course, there's nothing that's going to be blown up as far as the course changing its routing or anything like that. It'll just be like a grand old lady with maybe a pull and a tuck and a slight facelift in a few spots.
Okay.
And some things to make it more fun and flow a little bit better. And the bunkers will be redone. And I think it's going to be great. I've been drawing out some things that I think. There's nothing set in stone yet. We're way ahead of the game, so things can change along the way. But I want to create a very playable golf course for the members and guests there, one that they'll want to come out and play day in and day out. So that's the thing about a great golf course, is that you don't want to beat people up. If you want to go beat people up, you design Pebble Beach or something like that. But Desert Island will remain fun and playable and a challenge.
It sounds like what I'm taking from that, because Desert Island can be tough, but it's interesting how it can be tough. I've talked to a lot of good players, young players that have gone out there, kids that hit it really far.
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily a golf course where you want to or need distance or length. That can actually work against you on that course.
Absolutely. And it's a tight golf course, it has its boundaries there off Bob Hope and some housing developments around there and off Frank Sinatra. So it's a tight little property that fits into a community development. And I think with beautiful water features through there and the wildlife, it's really a very special little enclave, right there in the middle of the desert. So we just hope to enhance it.
Absolutely. To borrow from Enhance, I'm going to steal the Hance from Enhance. In
Okay.
that, of course, as mentioned, you worked with architect Gil Hance at the Olympic Golf Course in Rio. Mr. Hance is also coming to the desert for a project. It's a little on the hush hush, real 1% stuff, Amy, for the, I believe it's called the Coachella Golf Club, Irving Azoff's club, with going to be about 50 members in Thermal.
Yes.
Anything you can share about that, or are you perhaps consulting on that project as well?
No, I'm not consulting on it, but I do know Mr. Azoff. I know his passion for golf. And I have not seen any plans for it. But I understand it's going to be kind of a private place that you could just go play golf and don't have to, deal with a lot of people waiting in line for hot dogs,
It
and
doesn't sound
and
that
a
way.
lot waiting at the turn to get on the 10th tee. So I'm sure Gil will do a marvelous job, and create something special there. But
Yeah.
I haven't heard any details.
Okay, nor have I, save for some of the initial county meetings and things like that. They gave some details, and it was something like no more than 3 groups on the course at a time. So yeah, I don't think you're waiting in line for the Kobe beef slider for too long.
No, 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 I don't think so.
Let me ask you lastly today, Amy, in regard to your design work, that I've written about, I guess, women in agronomy, taken on that story subject in a lot of articles.
Mhm.
But the storyline of women in golf course architecture is not, it's not a long thread. I mean,
No,
you can go back to the work that Marion Hollins did, and of course Alice Dye, the first lady of golf
sure,
architecture. A few others, Annika Sorenstam has kind of dipped her
sure.
toe into that pool, as have you. But it's still such, and I know it's a very competitive field, but it is totally male dominated. Why is that?
Well, I don't know. Spiritually, uh, I think women have a very good sense of obviously design and movement and feel of what a golf course should look like. Obviously, Marion Hollins did. I was honored to be back at our Hall of Fame inductions 2 weeks ago back in Florida. Got to put my white blazer on and welcome Tiger into the Hall of Fame along with Marion Hollins and learn more about her there than on the video. But she was like way ahead of her time, talking Alistair McKenzie into a par three at 16. And, I think that, and Alice Dye, before she died, many conversations with Alice about, getting on that tractor with a rum and coke the way she did and telling Pete he could do 16 at Sawgrass, and you need to really scare the hell out of these guys coming down the stretch. And that's what they did with kind of 16, 17, and 18. I think it's like politics. If you had more women running countries, you wouldn't have the wars. You'd have probably a more loving kind of creative nature to things. And the same is true in golf design. I think that I've met Jan Beljan, who worked for Tom Fazio. There's, talked to Jan Stevenson, who played on the tour before me. Jan's done some work. Annika, you're talking about a very small group of people. My design ideas come from so many golf courses that I've played around the world that I've jotted notes down, whether it's Manila Golf Club in the Philippines or it's Mayfield Country Club in Cleveland. There's a hole or something, or my passion, my favorite holes, 10 at Riviera. It really doesn't matter where it is, but you kind of get a feel and a flair for what's going to challenge people and what's going to make it fun. And I wish there were more women designers like, and I'm, lest I say an architect, I'm not, okay, but I am a designer, an architect like Tom Doak or Alistair McKenzie, these people, Gil, Thomas McClay Kidd. I mean, they're jacks of all trade, and I've seen them work all about everything that they know. It's a something you eat, breathe, and sleep. But design, I have a good feel for. So I'm just in my first 15 minutes.
It's interesting that Dana Fry joined me 2 weeks ago to talk about Desert Willow Golf Resort and his work out
Yes.
there 25 years ago. And he did talk about those two different styles. You have the architects, and then you kind of have people that have, I don't want to say more of the vision, but they're maybe using
Right.
a different side of the brain in designing golf courses. To that same fact about women, and I did forget Jan Bell Jan. She was actually president of the ASCGA. I neglected to mention her, but I like, Amy, when leadership represents a populace, which is to say, in golf course design, like a quarter of golfers are women. Perhaps more poignantly, the National Golf Foundation will tell you that like around 40% of new golfers are women, which is to say, to your point, we need to have more representation from female golf designers in creating or remodeling golf courses for sure.
Right. No, I agree with that. I don't think the golf industry for many years was prepared for the influx of women in the game, and their buying power, their spending power, their interest. They're wanting to be part of this kind of all male system of, from whether it's playing golf with your boss and men working who are the guys that get the deals, put the deals together. I mean, the world's really changed a lot. And I think women in a position of power really realize that golf can be something that really helps them. Not everybody's going to be a pro golfer like myself, but golf is something to play for fun. It also can enhance your life in business and with your family and on so many levels. And I think that's why, and junior golf, boy, that's the lifeblood of the game. So many good young little juniors playing, boys and girls. And so the game is really, the face of the game is changing, and that's great to see. And, you know, again, getting back to your point, I think more women designers hopefully will be in the offing, you know, that love and know golf.
Well, Amy, from the upcoming Chevron Championship to looking a little bit further ahead to your work at Desert Island, look forward to perhaps seeing you. It'd be great to introduce at the tournament, and also to follow your work in the dirt down the street at Rancho Mirage at Desert Island. Really enthused to see what you do over there, and appreciate your
Yeah.
time. Thank you
Well,
for joining me.
thank you very much, Judd. Thanks for having me.